Hello there. Um, Morning, Saturday. Um, it's funny, these things do kind of take on a real life of their own. We're looking at Jackie's tomato plant, and then we were looking at Jesus in the desert, nature, and it's just really weird. John Stott died on the 27th of July, 2000, 2011. Um, In 2005, he was named by Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential people in the world. Um, I suppose now, looking back, he's principally known for being one of the authors of the Lausanne movement, which was basically a kind of umbrella document that brought all kinds of folks of a basically evangelical outlook together. He's just he's an elder statesman of Christianity, and he's somebody whose books I would still readily go to. It's just um, he's one of the figures who you probably wouldn't imagine if you're doing some gardening, or if you're thinking about the desert, the kind of the absence of growth and plant life as we were yesterday. It's just that the kind of world of nature isn't necessarily what you think of first. He's got lots of commentaries, and he's got lots of theology, and he's kind of an evangelical leader. What most people don't know about him is the fact that he was a twitcher of the most obsessive kind. He was a bird watcher over decades, and he was actually an ornithologist of quite, he's had a very significant knowledge about bird life, and at a time when being Christian and focusing on ecological issues wasn't really the kind of end thing, he was actually quite focused, because it's a biblical issue, but not really in the way that it should be. He pioneered. Was an early supporter of a group set up by Peter and Miranda Harris called Arocha, which is essentially an organization that does ecology, but it does it in a Christian manner, and it does it because God gave us this earth. I guess I'm just saying, reflecting on the garden and what you grow, and the flowers that come to bloom, and the vegetables you get to harvest. If you're the kind of person that takes you closer to God, then starting at that very small part, but taking it into a very large application, we should accept that the church has not always been to the fore when it comes to ecological issues. And it was because we were on this. Is one of John Stott's last books was a book called Radical Disciple, and it was really just him, as he was getting towards the end of his life, talking about the things that he felt were not really being given the kind of focus. In other words, if you were a genuine disciple, what were the kind of things that you would be focused on? And he has in it the kind of stuff that you would expect, a, a commitment to grow in faith and be a mature Christian, not just somebody who's come to faith, as in don't just make a statement, carry it through. Being Christ-like in your dealings at work, and kind of having a consistency. There's a whole bunch of stuff where you think, I can imagine somebody like him writing that. But one of the things, it's got 8 things where he contends that Christianity is not giving the kind of weight to it that Scripture does. He calls it creation care, not pastoral care, creation care. He says in the book, of all the global threats which face our planet, climate change is the most serious. There's a famous phrase, I can't remember who's the author of it. The phrase is, this too will end. In other words, to bring a perspective on usually the hard, challenging, difficult things in life, bear in mind no matter how bad it is, this too will end. You know, it's not just the good stuff that comes to an end. The bad stuff comes to an end too. This pandemic is going to come to an end. Clearly, we don't want a second spike. We don't want to have the thing come back. Hopefully, Scotland can sort of see it through to conclusion. But I guess I'm just pointing out, I think one of the things we have to take seriously off the back of this pandemic is the degree to which global things are problems that there are problems that have global proportions where it will come to an end, but if this is the degree to which our society and our planet is plunged into chaos by a virus that's not that bad in comparison to a huge number of other viruses that have gone before it, we should be careful and mindful that some of the changes that are happening to our planet at a global scale in terms of climate, we won't be able to expend all our efforts and find some vaccine to take the temperature of our planet down a degree or two. If you are somebody who likes the garden, finds God in that space a whole lot more readily than in church, if you are somebody who recognises, yes, we probably need to learn about Jesus' time in the desert, but I'm really thankful that we don't actually have a whole lot of desert. I'm really happy we have Scotland in its greenery and its fantastic scenery. If that kind of environment is something that we genuinely want to protect and look after because creation care is actually a biblical injunction, hold your hand up. Ecologists, people who were in Greenpeace were saying this a whole lot sooner than most Christians. But I do think it's interesting that John Stott, with his love of birds and his love of the environment, was actually ahead of the game in a lot of that, in a lot of these issues for in terms of Christianity. He points us towards the reality that, especially as we reflect coming out of a pandemic, there really are big problems that need to be addressed at a global scale. I think Scotland has done relatively well in meeting this virus head on and bringing it under control. But it has only happened because of the kind of coordinated whole country approach. And it just strikes me that there are, if you are somebody who does enjoy finding God's presence in your garden, looking after this planet, we are called to be stewards. And if we can look after ourselves in the face of this pandemic, maybe self-care isn't the only care we should be thinking about. Maybe creation care is something we need to give a whole lot more focus to once we laughably get back to normal. That would be something that would be really good, I think. I think that's certainly something we should learn. not least because this has been achieved, this pandemic, dealing with it, has been achieved by doing stuff together and making sacrifices individually, recognizing that they had a nationwide benefit. There are other issues that we need to apply that same approach to. I think looking after the planet might very well be one. Hope you have a good Saturday. Hope you have a good weekend. Hopefully we'll see you at the service. Until the next time, go with God, because I know God goes with you.